Hi, welcome to the Midlife Synthesist. In this video we're going to talk about the Keystep Pro and the original Keystep, the pros and cons and the similarities between the two, and maybe help you out with which one you should get. And we're starting right now. So before we start this video, I just wanted to say a quick hi to our sponsor. Hi there. And if you like these kinds of videos, please consider subscribing so you don't miss out on the next one. So first off, I thought I might talk about the similarities between the two keyboards. Both of these have the same kind of mini keys, and that's good news because on these kinds of mini keys, I always felt like the size of the keys never got really in the way of me playing. I really like them. Both on the original and on the Keystep Pro, I always felt like the keys really let me flow and just find my way around them. So that's one big point for both of them. Both are relatively small. Now we're talking about a 3-octave keyboard on the Keystep Pro and a 2-octave keyboard on the original Keystep. Considering the size of both, they both pack a lot of punch. The original Keystep also allowed you to save sequences, had an arpeggiator, and could adjust the tempo. Both of these have MIDI didnt, and that's a big point because most of these mini keyboards don't have proper MIDI out or a sustain pedal or CV outs, and both of these have that, and that's a pretty good deal. You can program chords on both, so you can set off chords by using just one key, and both of them support a plugin editor, so you can fine-tune everything on both of these. Another really good point is both of these are very video friendly, and by that I mean they both look gorgeous. I mean, look at this, it's beautiful. And on that note, I'd like to start off with the things that I really like about the Keystep original versus the Keystep Pro. First off, I really like that compact, almost Apple product look of the original Keystep, and the size of the Keystep made it really easy to fit in the frame, so you didn't have to have these big wide-angle lenses in, for example, a synth video or a YouTube video. And besides making music, I love making these little jams, as you've seen probably on my channel, and if you haven't, now's a good time to start. And the Keystep really lends itself well to that kind of setup, especially if you just need it as an input device versus a full-fledged sequencer. In my case, I usually used it with a Digitact or the Octatrack, or even the MPC, so I didn't need the sequencing capabilities of it. Aesthetically and functionality wise, it had everything I needed. Another great thing on the original Keystep is that you had access to 16 MIDI channels right there on the keyboard. And if you look on the front panel of the Keystep, you can see that you have channels 1 through 16 on the keys, which with a tap of a button, you can quickly switch between your devices. For a live situation where you just need it as an input device, it's really quick and it lets you just start experimenting. The ability to be switching between your 16 tracks is really interesting. For example, you can set up an Ableton project with 16 different VSTs, and you can just start switching between them while you're recording. So that makes for some really dynamic music making, which I'm all for. Another good thing about the size on the Keystep is that it makes it a lot more portable than its big brother. The Keystep Pro isn't huge in comparison to the Keystep, but it is noticeably bigger. Try thinking iPad 11 versus iPad 12.9. It might not be a deal breaker, but you'll definitely notice the difference. A final note on the Keystep: even though it has only 2 octaves, I never really felt that that held me back. And once again, this really comes down to what use you're gonna give it, because, for example, when I want to do real piano style playing, I go to the Nord. But when I want something small and direct, I would usually just go to the Keystep. And for that, it works fine. So what are the things that I didn't like on the Keystep and the reasons that I switched over to the Pro? One of the things I really hated on the Keystep is having no real control over the metronome. You do have a knob on the Keystep where you can adjust the time, but it's really awkward. You don't get a screen telling you what time you're in, and you usually get these like really strange values like 123.5. I don't know. I didn't find it that useful really. Also, I'm not a very big fan of step sequencing in the blind. As in the Keystep, you don't have a screen or any real feedback as to what step you're in or how many steps you made. So it was kind of like hit or miss. And that's not necessarily that bad if you want to like just let go and not overthink things. But personally, I really like the visual feedback that I get on the Keystep Pro. Oh, and that brings me to one thing that I find annoying both on the Keystep Pro and on the original, is that I can't, at least to my knowledge, use the arpeggiator without pressing play. So it'd be really nice if I could just use the arpeggiator without necessarily triggering the sequence. Who knows, maybe Arturia could fix this in a firmware update? Another thing that I really didn't like about the Keystep is that I actually felt the need to hook it up to a computer to get all that I wanted out of it, because the plugin is really useful, but I really don't like having to hook up to a computer when I'm in the middle of making music. Saving the sequences got kind of messy, so in that aspect, the Keystep Pro is a real big upgrade. Okay, so what are some things that I really like about the Keystep Pro? Vegas mode, come on, that's beautiful. The materials and the buttons themselves feel awesome. You get this really cool metronome, and there it is. Come on, that's cute. Who wouldn't love that? One of the things I really love, which is one of the main themes of the Keystep, is you get a lot of onboard, on-panel control, knobs, buttons, and a screen. Yeah, we got a screen. Now, that screen is really useful because now I don't need to go into a computer for practically anything. I can just go in, for example, if I want Shift Utility, and I can assign my MIDI track channels, I can sync, I can adjust my metronome, the count in. Basically, I can do anything I want directly here on the device and not have to power up my computer. You get these nice looper functions, which can be a bit hit or miss, but I'm trying to get used to them, and actually they're pretty cool because they're like a re-trigger button, and they kind of remind me of that DJ style stutter effect on the SP404, and that just makes for some really cool effects. The only problem I found with the looper up to now is that you have to be really precise as to when you press it, because sometimes you loop a piece that doesn't have that much sound in it, so it kind of sounds empty. But what I think is really awesome, and that I wish my OP1 had, is that when you press the looper, when you let go, it'll actually bounce back to the part of the song where it was supposed to be. It's not like you're gonna get like off track or get these weird polyrhythms on it. You'll actually get a nice loop and you'll be back on your track as it was supposed to be going. So that's really useful. Okay, for all the modular junkies out there, you get loads of CV outs. I recently sold my modular stuff, but if I ever go back to modular, this thing is really gonna come in handy. Now, if you have a look on this panel, this actually brings back memories of the Octatrack and the didnt. What do I mean by that? You get these 4 pages and you get these 16 steps. Sound familiar? Also, you can edit per step and it's polyphonic per step, and I think that makes it very robust and it makes it a great sequencer. I really love that you can just adjust so much on it, and it's all here right on the panel. Another thing I really loved about this is the drum track. Now, I didn't really get it at first, and I thought that I wouldn't use it that much, especially since I have Elektron boxes, but it actually reminds me a lot of Elektron sequencing styles in that each one of these drum tracks corresponds to all these lights over here. So if I'm on the kick, I can program it over here and I can give it some parameters, much like an Elektron box. And as an Elektron geek, this roughly translates to page 1, 2, 3, 4, conditional trig, and having the option to use this to sequence other drums makes it very interesting. Another thing that I really like about this sequencer is that, like an Elektron box, you have scenes. You have 16 of these, which work like patterns on the didnt, where you get one pattern over here, and if you switch the scene, you get another pattern. And you have these for the 4 tracks. So I think they were really heavily inspired by Elektron when they made this, and that's a really good thing. Another thing that's really good news is that you can actually save up to 16 projects, each with their own patterns and scenes. Okay, so I know that I said that on the Keystep I didn't miss any extra octaves, but now that I'm using the 3 octaves, I have to say I don't think I can go back. I just really like the feel of these keys on 3 octaves. It just makes for a lot more musicality here. Oh, and last but not least, one of my favorite things on the Keystep Pro is the ability to split up the keyboard and use 2 different synths on half and half. For example, if I have track 1 set up on the peak and track 4 on the didnt, I just press these 2 buttons and now, boop, now I get half a peak and half a didnt, so I can actually play both at the same time. That's actually one of my favorite things on the Nord stage, and to have this on this little MIDI keyboard, I mean, come on, how cool is that? Okay, so it's not perfect. It does take a little more time to get used to, as with most things that are a little bit more complex. You might have to spend a little bit more time setting it up. The cool thing is you can actually set it up directly on the keyboard. You don't have to be hooked up to a computer to do that. Another thing you might consider as a con is that this is substantially more expensive than the original Keystep. Now, considering everything that you get on the Keystep Pro, I really think it is worth it. Okay, so who are these things for? I don't think this is a situation where the Keystep Pro is obviously going to be a better fit for everyone versus the original Keystep. Actually, I think they occupy pretty different niches, and they're pretty good at both of them. The things you have to remember is they're pretty sturdy. At least I never had a problem with any of the keys falling off or the knobs or anything. The keys feel really good to play on, and they both have MIDI in and outs, as well as CV outs, and that makes them both pretty attractive. Now, who do I think the original Keystep is for? I think the original Keystep is actually a really good fit if you only want to use this as an input device. By that I mean, if you have a Deluge, an Elektron box, an MPC, anything that can really sequence and has a built-in robust sequencer, but you just need to get those notes in, the Keystep Original is a great choice for that. I used it for about 2 years and I really loved it. I have no complaints at all. The other thing that I really miss about the Keystep is the ability to switch quickly between the MIDI tracks, and I cannot stress this enough. Especially on something like the didnt, the ability to do that was amazing because I could quickly switch between different audio samples and play them chromatically. And that really gave me some awesome, beautiful creative moments. So for example, if you're using Ableton with a bunch of VSTs, or if you have lots of synths but you have another sequencer, I think that maybe the Keystep Original is more than enough, and you'll get a kick out of it, especially because of that quick MIDI channel switching. However, if you need more than that, I think the Keystep Pro is just a bargain for this price. I know it's not exactly cheap, but this thing really is worth it. So who is the Keystep Pro for? I think the Keystep Pro is for someone who needs a brain on their hardware setup, be it modular or semi-modular or whatever. If you need something to sequence your gear and you don't have that much gear, then this thing is an awesome choice. I mean, the sequencer itself is worth the entry fee. It's extremely deep and fun to use. And what's more, it's really intuitive to use, because sometimes you get these sequencers that are really awesome, but they're a pain to use or they're just really hard to get around. So if you have a medium to small size rig, I say go for the Keystep Pro. This can easily be the brains of the operation. So that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a comment. Tell me what you think about these two. I really hope this was helpful if you're on the fence on which one to buy. Just remember that the music doesn't come from your gear. It comes from over here. The gear is not the most important thing. You are. You're the one that's making the music, so go out there and make it. I hope to see you again next time.